Welcome to the second class in ASON Masterclass 3. In today's class, we are going to be taking the niche and city selection along with the 10 places that we picked in the previous lesson, and we are going to be expanding on that information to get to the point where we essentially have our entire website planned and can be ready to proceed with the construction. So I have here on my screen the 10 dog parks that I picked out for Los Angeles, and along with it I have the keyword traffic data. While I only have one number here for each of these keywords, some of them actually have other alternative ways that the keyword phrase is actually searched. For example, right here, this pretty long keyword phrase, this is actually searched in 5 or 6 different combinations, and altogether it equals out to a couple hundred monthly searches. So while some of them may look pretty low, like this particular one at only 50 monthly searches, other ones like Huntington Dog Beach has 1,900, and in fact this even has a couple of different variations. Huntington Beach Dog Beach gets 1,000 searches a month. So overall, I have a decent spread of places that I have decided to feature on this website. So what I want to do at this point is try to take these 10 places and figure out what kind of supporting material might I be able to create on my site, either now or potentially in the future. What I mean by supporting material is additional pages of content that you could have on your site that would essentially act as gateway pages for these different place pages that you have created. Now, one of the methods that I had talked to you about in terms of targeting a niche and a city, besides picking out different places, is actually to talk about different events that are going on in that niche and in that city, or even different news stories that are relating to it. While you can build an entire site based off of nothing but news and events, one of the easiest things to do is to base it off of places and instead use the news and events as some of that supporting material. So to give you an example here, Huntington Dog Beach. Let's say I build a page on Huntington Dog Beach and I get some search rankings for it, but maybe I'm not as high in the search rankings as I would like to be. What could I possibly do to improve those search rankings? While I could go out and try to build links from other relevant pages on the internet and point them back to this page, another thing I can do is simply to build more pages on my site that link up to this particular page using my target keyword phrase, or maybe just the beginning part of it here, a couple of different combinations of that. So an easy way that I could go about doing this is to find different news stories or different special events, especially if they are annual events that will continue to take place at a certain point in the year every single year. Then I can create a page about the event or about the news story. Put a little bit of factual information in there, put a little bit of opinionated information in there, and link it up to this page on my site. So using the dog beach as an example, there might be some kind of special dog get-together that the city is holding, or maybe that some business or other dog-related organization is holding at this particular dog beach at a certain time of year. Maybe it's even some kind of contest or dog show or something of that nature. These types of things make for great supporting material. Now, there's not always going to be events that are centered around all the different places that you choose to target, especially if your places are just normal everyday businesses. However, you could still find news stories and events and things like that that you could relate back to those places and link up that extra content as supporting material. Now, the reason why I'm talking to you about this at this particular point in the training, I don't necessarily want you to go out and try to find a ton of different supporting material for all of these different places that you have picked out. However, it is good to do a little bit of initial research to see what you can find, because that could potentially affect what you choose to target as your 10 places. You might decide to go back and change things up a little bit to switch things out. Maybe there are a lot of news stories or events relating to one particular place that you didn't decide to target. And obviously, if that was the case, that could be a good choice of a place to target. Now, obviously, you're not limited to 10 different places here, but it is a good starting point, and it's also good to know about what kind of supporting material you might be able to add to your site later on to back up all of this and to help enhance your search rankings as well. So I want to take a minute to show you a couple of different ways that you could go about finding this information. The first thing I'm going to do, since these dog parks that I'm targeting on this site, they are maintained by the city, I can actually go to the City of Los Angeles, their official website, and they might have a section on their website having to do with different events that are going on. A lot of cities have these city calendars that are happening, and they'll have meetings and stuff that they talk about, and they will also have these different upcoming events. And you can even look at entire calendars, so you can find out about this stuff potentially months ahead of time and get something written up on your website about it. And these are easy ways to not only gain search traffic relating to these events when you publish a page on your site all about the event, but then it's also a great way to use it as that supporting material once again. So you can pass some of the search power from these event pages that you create along to the pace pages that you really want to get the great search rankings for, the ones that have a nice amount of traffic for each of the keyword phrases. So if you are doing anything that is based on something that is maintained by a city, definitely check out the city official website and try to find their calendar and their upcoming events. Even if you're not doing something related to a city-maintained type of place, you can still go to this type of website to find these upcoming events and still use things that are relational to what your niche is about. Because not all of these upcoming events have specific things to do with city-maintained properties. You'll often find a wide variety of different upcoming events located in there. So that is always a really good place to start out and check. Now, another good place is good old Google itself. You could obviously search for simple websites that are out there that are relational to the different places that you want to target, to try to hunt down different events that might be going on. With my dog parks, for example, there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are set up to maintain and help to beautify and enhance a specific dog park. So I might be able to go and hunt down different websites like that to try to find some information. Beyond doing some of the basic research like that, you can use a website that is also part of Google called Google Alerts. A lot of you have probably heard of this particular site of theirs already. And it's really easy to do. You can simply go and type in a search phrase and create an email alert about it. So Google will send you a notification when there's new content relating to your search term. So this could alert you to things like news that comes up that happens to have your search phrase contained within the news article. So you could quickly be alerted to new news stories that have to do with your different places that you are trying to target. So try setting up some Google alerts for your 10 different places. This will help you to find new content going forward. It's not necessarily going to give you a ton of instantaneous content. However, there are some instances where it might actually be able to do just that. If you look down below after you search for an alert and before you actually go through and create it, you can see the alert preview, and it'll show you news that might relate to your place and blog entries that might relate to your place, and then different web pages and so on and so forth. So make sure you at least scroll through here, and you might be able to find some different things that perhaps didn't pop out to you in the normal Google search. And then you can create your alerts for the future to let you know about new content that's going to be coming out having to do with your locations. Now, on Google itself, you can also do some searches in their actual news category, not just a web search, but I like to go over to the news tab here and do some searching related to my place. Now, if you have a keyword phrase for your place that is fairly long, like the one I was just using over here on Google Alerts, Laurel Canyon Dog Park. If I go over here and try to type this into a Google News search, you can easily see that a lot of these results don't really have to do with the particular place that I am going after. They might contain part of my keyword phrase, but maybe not the exact thing. As you can see down here, This is talking about the Laurel Canyon neighborhood. And it mentions the word dog somewhere, and somewhere else it has the word park, talking about a memorial park cemetery. And ultimately, this news article is really not about Laurel Canyon Dog Park. So how do you really find news here that is related to what you are going for? One of the easiest ways is to narrow down the results that Google is going to give you by using double quote marks. You can put double quotes at the beginning and the end of your keyword phrase to see if any exact matches show up in Google News. Now for this particular search, there are not any exact matches that show up in Google News, and it's trying to show me just a normal web result here instead. So if you see something like this, you might need to try to go a little more general, because somebody might be talking about Laurel Canyon Dog Park, but not actually using that entire exact phrase. They might use the term dog park somewhere and the term Laurel Canyon somewhere else. So what I can do is to split that up yet again and do two different sets of exact matches. So I can have Laurel Canyon in double quotes, and then I can have dog park in double quotes. And search this yet again and see if it helps me to find any better results. Now as you can see here, I'm not actually able to turn up anything. So there's nothing indexed, at least, in Google News that has to do with Laurel Canyon Dog Park. But I would still want to continue on with my other places and see if I can find some information about it. Depending on the niche that you're trying to target, there may be some niches where you'll get results like this, where you really can't find a lot of news relating to the places you want to target. But then there will be other niches where you're going to find a ton of news. It's really just going to kind of vary, which is why I wanted to give you guys all of these different possibilities of ways that you can research some of this stuff for yourself. The events are going to be one of the more common things that you'll be able to find relating to the places, even if it is just some kind of annual sale that a particular store has every year. If the 10 different places you picked are 10 different retail stores in your city relating to a particular niche, you could do something as simple as have some events that are big sales that these different stores have and do some special coverage on that particular event. And every year when that special sale comes back around, you're going to have a nice little flood of search traffic, and you're going to have this extra supporting material to go along with these different places that you're trying to target. So what I would advise you to do at this point at least, go ahead and go through your 10 different places and see what kind of supporting material you can find out there. And also try to get a vague idea of whether you could expect future supporting material to show up. If you think that there might be new news stories in the future having to do with your places, or new events that get created in the future having to do with your places, anything of that nature. Make a list of any of this research that you possibly can to go along with each of the different places. If you find particular events that you feel like are going to be prime candidates for this supporting material, definitely make a note of it. And once you get your website constructed in terms of covering all these places and having some Amazon product pages up there, then you can go back through and start building this additional supporting material onto the site. But it's good to know about it ahead of time, or else you might build your site in a way that's essentially not planning for this type of stuff. So the next thing I want to continue on to is actually taking these dog parks, or the 10 different places that you have found for your own niche, and I want to find exact locations for all of these different places, and I want to essentially map out a driving route to visit all of these different places. One way or another, either you or somebody that you pay, a photographer, is going to end up having to visit these different places that you want to review and feature on your site. So it is good to know exactly how much travel that's going to involve, how long it's going to take, how many miles it is going to be. So what I will do is use Google Maps for this, and I will take my 10 different places here, and I will try to locate them on Google Maps. So I'm in Google Map now, and I'm going to search for Herman Dog Park. Once I find the place, I want to do a couple of different things. My main thing that I'm interested in, though, is actually getting this address. And I want to copy this address, and I want to add it to my list here. So then I have these addresses for future reference, because either me or somebody else is going to have to visit them, and these addresses are good information to be including on your own website. So we're going to go through these 10 different dog parks now and find some addresses for them. Now, you will find that there are some places that may not have a specific address, at least listed in Google Maps. If you're dealing with something like a park, you'll find that this is more common, whereas if you're dealing with a specific business, then this is really going to be much, much less common. If you have something like a park that's obviously going to be maintained by a city or some kind of organization or something like that, find the website for that connecting city or organization, and oftentimes you can find the address there. So while Google is telling me here that this is what the address is for Griffith Park, it is in fact something slightly different. And this is the official address for it. So one way or another, you need to go through your 10 different places and find an actual address that you could use for mapping it out. When you have your 10 different locations mapped out, what you're going to want to do is use this direction feature. I'm not actually on the dog park here. So when you have the direction feature, you click on that little direction link, it'll bring up this where you have your location in, and then you can add even more locations to it. So I can add in my 10 different places that I want to travel to in this manner. And I can also retrieve my addresses this way too. So now the entire purpose of doing this within Google Maps is obviously to not only get the addresses of these different places, but then it's to map out my entire route. You can see as I proceed, Google is actually mapping my entire route out for me. So simply use your own list here and pull up your 10 different places in Google Maps. Now I need to actually pull all 10 of these up for you guys here so I can show you how this will work. Okay, so I have my 10 different places entered in now. And if you look right here, you're going to see that Google will tell you how much time and how many miles it would take you to drive from one place to all of these other different places. However, with that in mind, you need to remember that Google is only doing this based off of the actual list that you provide and the order that you provided in. These different parts here, I actually already had them configured in an optimal manner. However, if I had maybe had this in alphabetical order, watch my 2 hours and 45 minutes and my 91 miles. If I were to simply rearrange just a couple of these into, say, perhaps alphabetical order instead of the order that they're in. Now I just rearranged the first couple, and that's already added more than an hour and 15 minutes to my drive and about 70 miles. So you need to kind of play around with the ordering of your different locations and try to find the most optimal driving route to go from one place through all the other different places. Now, if you live in the city and you're intending on doing all of the picture taking yourself, then you might also want to throw your own house address into this. However, Google will limit you to doing 10 at a time this way. So you might have to potentially just imagine where you are and try to get your first location closest to your own home and simply go from there. So rearrange everything until you get to the point where you feel like it is the most optimal driving route to go from one place through the rest of them. Record all of your addresses from the 10 places, and then record the time and the mileage as well. So I have this page here with all of my addresses already figured out, and I can just add 2 hours and 45 minutes and 95.1 miles to this particular list. So then I know what kind of an effort this is going to be, whether this is something that I could tackle in a single day, or maybe I need to split it into 2 days. And more importantly, if you decide to hire somebody to go out and take those pictures for you, you can give them a list of all the different places and all the different addresses, and you can even give them this estimated mileage and driving time based on a Google Map estimate. And people really appreciate that kind of stuff. This is something that I've done with every project that I have worked on having to do with these local niche-based websites where I've hired a photographer, and I get tons of photographers that are applying to work these jobs for me. And this nice organizational type of information is a big reason why. But even if you're going to do it yourself, still good information to have and will help you out a lot. So the next thing I want to continue on to is going to be product research. We need to then go to Amazon once we kind of have an idea of the different places we're going to target and the different supporting material that we might be able to have on our website. Then we can figure out what products we are most likely going to want to promote on our site. This is going to help us with the whole planning stage. Now, for my particular site, the dog parks, I want to think about not only dog relational products, but think about the people that will actually be visiting these places that I'm going to be featuring on my site. People that visit dog parks with their dog are going to be perhaps a slightly different kind of dog owner from the person who owns a dog that lives in a fenced-in backyard and has a doghouse out back and never leaves that yard for as long as the owner has them. Those two owners are going to be very different types of dog owners. And as a result, they're going to be interested in very different types of products. So what you want to do as the website builder is to think about what types of products are really going to be the best fit for the people that are going to be visiting these places that you're featuring on your site. So for dog parks, I want to think about the active dog owner that is frequently going out places with their dog. What are going to be their primary concerns? What are going to be the things that they need to know about that maybe they don't already know about? And I could help to educate them on that. What kind of health or safety type of stuff might be involved, especially when it has to do with a pet? If it has to do with, if you're just reviewing a list of different retail locations, you want to think about why people want to go and visit there. What are they going to buy? Can you promote something to them that is going to complement something that they're going to buy at the store? Or can you maybe try to beat the store out in price? Maybe you know what the store sells this specific product for, and you can find it on Amazon for a little cheaper. There are a lot of different ways you can really go about trying to do your product targeting, but one way or another, you need to put a little extra thought into it and make sure that you're picking something that is actually going to sell to your website audience. So for my dog park site, I have decided to go for products that appeal to the active dog owner, and especially the dog owner that takes their dog frequently to a dog park. What are the things that they're going to need? What are they forced to have? By law in Los Angeles, they have to have a dog leash. They have to have a way to clean up after any waste that their dog may leave behind on public property. These two things right off the bat make for really easy selling points. So I can go and research leashes, find some great products on Amazon to promote, even do a little bit of Google research having to do with leashes, and find out what's really the best choice for people and for their dog. So you can do this same type of thing when it comes to your own niche. Figure out what the best possible fit for them is, because these are going to be your best selling products. Now, beyond what the law is going to require these dog owners to have to visit these dog parks, I can also think about convenience or the things that might be of concern for them. If you were taking your dog that you love, that is your best friend, and you're going to take them to a dog park that you've never been to before, you might be concerned about safety to a certain degree. You might be concerned about whether or not your dog could run away if they are, if you're going to an off-leash dog park. Can your dog get away from you and disappear and get lost? So I gotta go after certain products like GPS trackers for dogs. These are actually really big on Amazon. If I type in dog GPS tracker or tracking system, this particular one, this Tag GPS pet tracker, it is for both dogs and cats. It attaches to their collar, their existing collar that they already have. And people can actually find their pet in real time from their smartphone. So this is something that is major for dog owners, especially for the active dog owner that likes to take their dog out to a dog park or to a beach and wants to be able to enjoy themselves and maybe not keep their eye on them every single split second they're there, perhaps. This offers peace of mind. If you are 30 years old or older, you've probably experienced having a dog run away in your lifetime, whether it's yours or a friend or maybe your own kid's dog ran away. You have to go hop in the car and drive around the neighborhood and go hunt down their pet, and a lot of times you can't even find them, or something tragic ends up happening by the time you do find them. There's a lot of different things that this product helps to solve, and the people that are going to be visiting this site are going to be more inclined to want to pick up this type of product because it is along the lines of what they're interested in and what their lifestyle revolves around. So what I recommend to do is to go through Amazon and try to find these relational or complementary products that you can promote. You may even be able to, like I said, if you're going after retail stores, find discounts of products that are available in those stores. Big name products that people are going to that store to try to get. Try to find a better price online and beat out the local retail store. There's a lot of different ways you can go about trying to target your products. But just make sure that it's something that will fit closely in with your niche. Try to find a decent range of prices if you can, For example, with mine, this GPS tracker is $100. Nice price product. Whereas I'm going to have other products like the leashes that are not going to be very expensive. They might be $10 or $20. And then I'll have other products like over-the-counter pet medication, flea and tick control that I could promote on the site, which would be a little in between the leash and the GPS tracker price. So I like to try to find 5, 6 different products perhaps, or maybe types of products. What I mean by that is maybe there are 2 really good GPS trackers, and I want to give the people a choice of which one they want to buy. So I might feature 2 on one page on my site that is about GPS pet trackers. Or I could just pick my favorite one and try to go after that. You can try either approach. Either one can honestly work just fine. Sometimes giving people a choice of 2 products, one great product and even an inferior product, can help to make that great product look even more appealing. So ultimately, you either want 5 or 6 different products or types of products. So this is going to help you to build 5 or 6 pages on your site. So after you have gone through with your own niche in your own site to do this research, to get your supporting material, your addresses and your route information, your additional product research, we can then continue on to get our site structured out to get it ready to be built. Now, this is not something that you have to decide on and set in stone at this particular point, but it is still good to get this planned out roughly so you know what to proceed with when you actually start to build your site. So what I do is I take my 10 different places that I have, and I'm going to be putting all of those into one group. And I'll just call that places, because this is going to be just a general name that should fit no matter what kind of niche you're trying to target. So we'll have these 10 different places. These are each going to be 10 different pages on my site, and then I'm going to have a category page for the places. Now, there may be some instances where you decide you're going to do more than 10 places, and maybe they fall into a couple different categories. For example, I could do a site all about dogs in Los Angeles, and I could not only cover dog parks, but I could also cover different groomers and dog boarding places and different retail dog stores of that nature. So I might have a couple of different types of places that would be on that site. So in that instance, I would be splitting that into a couple of different categories, subcategories, under the places category. But in this particular case, all 10 of my places are all going to be grouped into one single category. So I'll have a category called dog parks and beaches, and then I'm going to have 10 different pages listed under this particular category. So then I will also have a place where my supporting material is going to go. This can essentially go in 2 different places on your site. You could have a news and events category where you then simply publish any news or events relating to your niche and your different places, and they would essentially just be mixed in together. This would be good for somebody that is not intending on doing a ton of different news and events postings on their site, especially if they're not going to be updating it really frequently. If you're only going to have 5 or 10 or even 15 or 20 there, you might just want to leave it as one category. But you could also, once again, split that into 2 different categories. You could have your dog news and you could have your dog events. The other place that you can locate that supporting material on your site is just in a completely separate category from the news and events category. Depending on whatever would work with your niche and what kind of supporting material you might have that you want to add to your site that doesn't fall into a place or a news or event type of topic, you could simply create a completely new category for it. On my site, I'm going to have something like this. It's going to be a page about dog park rules. And while I'm not going to have a bunch of different sub-pages that'll go under that category, it's just going to be one page about dog park rules, and it will relate to all my different dog parks. There could be other situations where I could easily have other kinds of supporting content like that I might want to include on my site. So I would then include that in just a completely separate category. So I could just call that supporting info. Now obviously you wouldn't want to be using generic names like places or news and events or supporting info. You know, get a little more specific depending on what your niche is really going to be about. And then finally, the last type of section that we're going to have on this site would be our products. These are going to be our different Amazon products that we had pulled out. Our 5 or 6 different main products, types of products, or perhaps different uses of products. These would be built on 5 or 6 different pages. And those pages would all be located under my products category. So you can see how we're going to end up being able to have a home page with a number of different categories and posts underneath those different categories to help to build an entire site structure for us. This is just going to help with organization. It will help with search engine optimization. It will help with people being able to use our sites a lot easier. And more importantly, it's going to help you when it comes time to actually start building your site. So try to go through and get this additional research completed for your own niche, for your own list of different places that you have pulled out that you are going to be featuring on your site. Get your supporting material, at least some initial research done. Try to get some websites figured out that you could revisit in the future to find out about different events or different news stories that are going on. Find some different news sites in that particular city. Set up some Google alerts for your different places. Go through and find your addresses and your route information for all of your different places using Google Maps. And then go through and do your Amazon product research to find the products you're going to promote. And finally, wrap it all up into a site structure. And then in the next lesson, we are going to continue on with actually getting our site set up and ready to start building it.